So I am here. If you were able to catch where I am, you might not be able to because I switched it. Hopefully there's no feedback this time. What I was doing was I had my headphones in the last time. So hopefully this time it's all synced up. I'll have to try next time for a live that I schedule to not put my headphones in. So if you are popping in, if you could let me know, is the audio synced now? Because this time I didn't have my headphones in when it started. So hopefully that was the trick, and I will just not use my headphones anymore for trying to do lives. Normally on Instagram, I would totally do the live with headphones. So today's, perfect. Okay, so I will not be using headphones. I will not use my headphones next time when it starts. Are you gonna be nice and wait? Okay, so today's live chat is all about school choice. Some people have their opinions on school choice. And I'm going to share mine today on school choice. What do I mean by school choice? School choice is basically, should parents be able to have choice on when and where they send their kid and what kind of education they're going to get? So like between public, charter, which is also public but a little different, private, or homeschooling, should parents have a choice to do that? And I will tell you up front, I think parents should have the choice to do that. And I'm going to give you my case on why I think parents should have that choice. So a little background on me. Not only am I a mom of 7 living children that I currently homeschool, but I also have a bachelor's of science in elementary education with an emphasis in psychology. And my university that I went through, the kind of like track I was on was for like multi-age Montessori type learning. Are you gonna let me go? Let me talk? She says no. So that's kind of my background. I do have a 4-year degree. I taught for 5 years in the public school system. I taught 4 of those years in Title I schools. Title I schools are schools that have 85% or more of their kids are on free or reduced lunches. So typically it's a lot of lower income, higher rates of poverty, homeless kiddos that come through, stuff like that. So that is where 4 of my 5 years of teaching experience was. And then one year I did go to a charter school thinking maybe I would prefer it, and I didn't. So I have done both sides of the spectrum of the public school system, of under a charter, and also in Title I, like I said, have a 4-year degree from Northern Arizona University. I graduated in 2011 in December, and I did my student teaching here in the greater Phoenix Valley. And I actually ended up teaching in that same district that I did my student teaching at. So what else? So our story. So we have 7 kids. I was a teacher when I had Emberly, and I worked my butt off and made sure that I had a job to provide for both of us. I sent Emberly to daycare because that's what you do when you work a job. And she was in a daycare that was in the school district that I taught in. And then eventually she was a preschool age, and we lived in a different area that I also taught in, that she qualified for their like Head Start program. And so Emberly has attended Head Start and the preschool program through a Title I. If you're not familiar with Head Start is specifically for like lower income families in that district. And so we definitely qualified for that. And just to let you know, like my teacher income, so funny thinking of it now, I left education making $32,000 a year. And that is insane because you literally cannot live on that. It was like, I made like $1,800 a month, and that's insane to me. Like, that is not a living wage at all. And I know I probably just said some buzzwords for people, but maybe she'll let me hold her this way. Okay, so, and then Emberly, she's like, Mom, why are you talking? Okay, I'm gonna have to sit back just a tad. So then when I was pregnant with Ava, I was still teaching, and I decided that I would be a stay-at-home mom. One, because I had always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and then two, because we mathed it out. I just made that like a verb. We mathed it out, and basically all of my income plus $100 would go to daycare, because Emberly was going to be still in pre-K, and we would need her to be in like an after school care, plus Ava would have to be in the newborn room, the infant room, which at daycare, that's the most expensive room. It's ridiculous. So we decided that I would be a stay-at-home mom, and we left the whole world of education behind us, and Emberly actually ended up going to a pre-K program at the public school that we were in boundaries for in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we absolutely loved it. I would volunteer in her classroom all the time because Matt was in the restaurant industry, and so he would be home during the day, and so I could go volunteer in her classroom, and I really loved helping out that teacher that was, you know, in a Title I position, and that teacher still is so amazing. So after that, I was able to choose where I wanted Emberly to go, because in the state of Arizona, you do have free choice on like where your kiddo is going to go to school. You can send them to the public school you're in boundaries. You can apply for another public school that you're not in boundaries for, so like an out-of-district application. You can apply for charter schools, or you can go the private school route. And I ended up applying to a couple different charter schools for Emberly, and she got into the one that we absolutely wanted, and we had a decent experience from kinder to second grade. Emberly did struggle with some bullying when she was at that school, which was a problem that we had to like take up with administration. But overall, like the actual learning part was really high quality. It was a classical education. They went over like classical literature and poetry recitation and classical art. Like, it was really well-rounded, and we really enjoyed that for Emberly. But it wasn't until the pandemic hit in 2020 that I was actually hospitalized because I was pregnant with the boys, and my water broke early, and I had placenta previa, and all the schools closed down, and Emberly had to do online distance learning at home in her tiny house with Matt working out of the unfinished nursery. And my mother-in-law was actually the one that was like basically trying to facilitate Emberly on the computer during COVID. And that was all fine. Like, we had the boys eventually, and we finished out their school year. And over the summer, they had planned like what their like going back into the classroom would look like. And they weren't sure on when they would go back, but they did say that they wanted the distance learning to continue, and that they would need like 7 hours of like on the computer time with like breaks in between. And that just was not feasible in our house. We had 6 kids in an 1,100 square foot house. We just outgrew it so fast. We didn't have a playroom. It was 4 bedrooms, so we had a bedroom, one set of twins had a bedroom, the other set of twins had a bedroom, and then the big girls had a bedroom. And there was just no room. And Matt was working from home. So I talked it over with Matt, and he was down to let me homeschool the kiddos for a year. And that was good enough for me because honestly, I had been a never homeschooler, meaning I never wanted to homeschool. I thought it was weird and dumb and like it would be too complicated, even though I have a degree in education. So I was the never homeschooler that was like, hey, I think this would be better for our family. So we went the homeschool route, and that's where we are today. Now it's been 3 years of homeschooling, and it's been up and down and all around as with anything with a bunch of kids. So that's our story. We've been in public, charter, and now homeschooling. Also with our story, just the background of like me and Matt. Matt grew up going to private school. So Matt, he went to a private Catholic school and then like a Jesuit high school and then even a private Jesuit college, university. And I did not grow up with that. I went to public school. I lived in a whole bunch of different states, and my parents always put us in public school. And I'm not sure if it was just because that's all there was. Probably part of it was financial, but I grew up in public school. I did community college. Like, I went the whole public school route, and I feel like I turned out fine. I have a degree, and I don't have any student loans now, so good job for me. Matt, he seemed to turn out fine. He went to private school. You know, he has a 4-year degree. He also went to Le Cordon Bleu and got like restaurant management or something because he used to be a chef. So we definitely come from like a background of having the choice of where our parents sent us to school. And so knowing Matt's experience, my experience, and then even my experience as a public school teacher, it was really easy for me to be like, okay, we're going to adjust what works for Emberly, only Emberly at the time, to fit the needs of her. Emberly was really struggling also with anxiety, like really, really, really bad anxiety over tests and homework and the poetry recitations where they'd have to like memorize these long poems and recite them in front of their class and everything. And like I said, we loved the school education model of it, but we also had to consider like our kiddo. So Emberly really struggled with that, and that was part of the thing when I was talking to Matt about homeschooling in 2020, that I felt like it would be really beneficial for Emberly because she had so much anxiety. Okay, so that's our story of like what we've done, where we come from, and my background. So let's talk about like Arizona. Arizona is a state that actually does support school choice. It's not a voucher system or anything. It's you get to choose where you go and how you want to get your child educated. Arizona did pass recently an expansion on their program called Empowerment Scholarship Award. It's called ESA. Originally, ESA was for certain small groups of special education students, kids with disabilities, or military families. And basically, they would get 90% of the funding that would normally go to their home school district. The parents would be able to get that and homeschool, or, well, it wouldn't technically be homeschool, it's called home educate, because they're receiving funds from the state. So Arizona actually just revamped this It's kind of like under fire right now, but they basically made it universal this past September. And now any child can apply for the ESA scholarship and receive 90% of their funding to the parents, and they can choose where they not only educate their child, but where they place the funds that go toward their child's education. So say you have a family that wants to send their kiddo to private school, they can't afford private school, they're already paying taxes locally that they're not seeing towards the education system. They're now able to apply for the ESA scholarship and get their funding quarterly, and they can use it at a private school, or they can use it to home educate. There are stipulations in the law. You can't technically be a homeschooler anymore, but a home educator, so a bit differently. But the state of Arizona does not have like testing requirements for homeschoolers or home educators like that either. So that is one of the beautiful things. We actually applied for the ESA scholarship and received it in October, and it has been a huge blessing on our family because we're able to purchase curriculum, educational materials, tutoring services, online like math programs or reading programs, foreign language programs, dance classes, like sewing classes, cooking classes, a whole bunch of stuff that can really like enhance your kiddo's education. So we're very, very grateful for the ESA. We are grateful for the ESA universal expansion. And it has changed our life, especially because financially, in the way that everything's going right now with inflation, like we're not making a ton of money at all. So having ESA has really been a blessing for us. And Arizona is actually it is basically the only state in the United States that has something like this universally for all kids, which says something huge, that Arizona really wants children and parents to be able to make a choice on their schooling and what's best for them. And I absolutely agree with that. Coming from the background that I come from and that Matt comes from, we know that even well-intentioned, well-prepared, well-educated teachers in public schools, private schools, charter schools, there's still cracks. And who better to educate their kiddos than a parent? Yes, there is nuance in all of this. I understand that. But to be able to legally have that right has been a huge blessing for us. Not every state has this type of free choice on schooling, but you will find other states like Oklahoma. Oklahoma has its homeschooling written into its state constitution, so it's completely protected, and that is absolutely amazing that there are states out there that do that. So what do I think on school choice? I think school choice is amazing. I think that if a parent wants to send their kid to a private school, they should be able to. I think if a parent wants to not send their kid to the public school they're in boundaries for, whether or not it's Title I or anything, they should be able to do that. They shouldn't be forced to just send their kid to a certain place. And I also think that if a parent wants to home educate and homeschool their kiddos, then I think they absolutely should be able to do that. So I had a little questionnaire put on my Instagram, and I got a series of questions that I did want to answer because I think it kind of clears up some misconceptions on homeschooling versus public schooling versus private versus charter. And I do want to state this very, very clearly. I am not dissing public school. I was a public school teacher. But again, it did not work for our family, for our kid that was struggling with anxiety, for the situation that we were put in 2020. And so we had to make the decision that would best benefit our family. And I think because we all can't know what other people are going through in their life, I think it's really important to give people some benefit of the doubt, just like how when you're in the grocery store and like somebody's rude to you or something, and if you're rude back to them and you're not like responding in kindness, like you don't know what's going on in their day. Someone could have just died, or they could have just lost their job, or like something could have happened. And so I think like it's good to kind of give people, bless you, the benefit of the doubt there, like even in education, that the parents majority of the time are going to make that good call for their kids, because they are their parents, and they typically, parents want what's best. Yes, there are outlier situations where there are parents that are neglecting kiddos, either in homeschool or public school. That's a parent problem. That's not a school education problem. Does that make sense? And so it's really hard to draw that like hard line and just do an all or nothing on nobody can do this or everyone has to do that, because there is nuance in every situation, in every family. There's different circumstances, different things happening in their life, different traumas that people are dealing with. And so I think it's really important to remember that there is no one size fits all. And I think that's why school choice actually matters and works well. Okay, so that is my stance on that. I'll answer some quick questions. Someone asked, when do I start school? So if you're following me on Instagram, our twin girls are 4.5 years old. And so they have been begging to start school. Normally, I take it by play. I enjoy watching the kids learn while they play. And I would normally be like, let's let you play. And you'll do your natural learning during that time. Well, they really wanted to do school. And so we did find like a really quick, short curriculum. There are 4 that they are working on: letter recognition, numbers, we do a story, stuff like that, and working on sounds. And so we are starting at 4, and I think that's totally okay. Curriculum. Luckily in the state of Arizona, there is no curriculum like regulation. I know places like California, you're not allowed to do like any faith-based homeschool curriculums. Arizona, you can do whatever you want. We currently have a mix of different curriculums. We use the Good and the Beautiful for language arts and math. And then Ava also uses it for handwriting. And then, I can't remember what handwriting Emberly uses, but it's a different cursive handwriting. And then we also are doing BJU Press for social studies, science, and spelling. And then we have an art curriculum that I am following. We're doing pottery, and then a whole unit on different types of artists. And then we also utilize OutSchool, which is basically like online classes that you can take on any topic and any subject. Yeah. And so they are doing piano, and it's been really great. I really love it. Emberly is excelling. She's doing all these challenge videos, which is really fantastic to see that the teacher in these videos is able to scaffold for kids at different levels. Like, how cool is that? And actually ESA covers all of the OutSchool classes. So that's been such a relief to be able to sign them up and do something that's in our home, and I don't have to drive to another thing, because 7 kids to more things than ballet, that's a lot. Spelling program. So we're doing the spelling program with BJU Press. I don't have an opinion on it yet. We're only like maybe 5 days into it. The spelling for the Good and the Beautiful was embedded in the language arts, and I liked it, but I don't necessarily think that any of it truly stuck for Emberly. So we'll see if BJU Press is a little better with that. This was a really good question because I am Christian. Somebody said, do you think there's value in public schools needing Christian students to attend. And I don't agree with that. And here's why. I think our kids are sponges. And I think that it's very easy for children, it's very easy for adults to have like incorrect theology or just incorrect beliefs in general kind of embed into their brain, and then to have to undo that, to have like an appropriate biblical worldview can be really hard as an adult to undo things. Now, if you're not Christian, you probably won't like this answer. But if you are Christian, you may understand that our children really need that biblical foundation. And there absolutely are families and public schools that send their Christian kiddos there and they have no problem. So I don't think we need to. I personally think that our kids are out in the secular world enough where they can be a Christian influence that way, and I don't need to send them to a public school in order to be like the Christian kid or something that witnesses to other kids. Don't like that, do you? So I don't think there's value in it. I think that is an invalid reason to send Christian kiddos to public school. Like, I don't think that counts as a good reason. Someone asked foreign language. So, like I said, OutSchool has those kind of cool classes for foreign language, but also Rosetta Stone. Like, and I'm sure some of you are like, oh my gosh, I remember Rosetta Stone. Well, Rosetta Stone, they have like a homeschool version. And so that is something that Matt and I already were talking about. Hopefully ESA stays with Arizona, and then we can get Emberly started in some foreign language. She actually did French at the charter school that she was at for K2. So some of that is like still in her brain. So we're thinking Spanish or French would be a great place to start when we add that to our plate. Another person asked, how do you go about getting into college as a homeschooler? So I personally am super new still to homeschooling, but what I've heard is that when you get to high school, it depends on the state, but ours, like, you have to track the courses and create a transcript of all the high school requirements, and then you submit it and have like, you get a diploma or you make a diploma, and then that becomes like an official transcript that you can then apply for colleges. I don't personally know because I only have a 10-year-old as my oldest kid. One resource though for you, if you are interested in homeschooling, hslda.org is a great website that is all about advocating for homeschooling in the United States. So that is a great spot to start. It will walk you through where you live and what kind of homeschool laws or regulations are in your area so that you can make the right choice and cover all your bases if you choose to homeschool. Someone else asked if we would send our kiddos back to school if they asked. And that I don't know, because to some extent I think you're right. We do have like some responsibility, right, to listen to our kiddos and weigh in what they feel. But also as a parent, I think it is our discretion ultimately how and what we do. So just like you may have grown up and like maybe had a parent that was like, you can't wear Daisy Duke booty shorts to school. Okay, well, that's like your parents' discretion, and it's under the authority of the parents. Like, it's a super common, typical thing for a parent to like regulate, right? And be like, oh no, you can't wear that. And I think that education should fall under that. So if for some reason one of our kids was like, I really want to go to this school or this private school or this charter school, it would be something that we would like take into consideration. But ultimately it's our our decision as parents. It's not really the kids' decision. This is not oppression, people, because I know there are people that are going to watch this and they're going to be like, you're neglecting and oppressing your child. No, they're children. They're not grown adults. They don't have a fully functioning brain where they can make those like life-changing decisions, and we're their parents. So that's just what's going to happen and what we're going to do. And then the last question is about our schedule. And so if you are not on Instagram, I do school from January to September. And this actually happened by accident, but it's all kind of worked out because Arizona has really, really great weather in the fall. So we get to enjoy that along with the holidays. When we first started, we kind of took 4 or 5 months of kind of like unschooling, light schoolwork, and transitioning because we had twin babies, our second set of twins under 2. So we kind of did a little unschooling, lots of field trips. We still did book work, but at the time I had not settled on a curriculum I loved. So we just kind of did that. And then we moved to our new house that we're in right now in December of 2020. And so we took the whole month of December off. And that's when we moved in. I got new curriculum that I had decided on. And we schooled from January to August. And then we had a whole bunch of losses. And then we lost Grace a week before Christmas. And so basically we took like a month off then as well. And by the time that we had finished school, it was the fall again. So, and then we took time off and then we had Claire. And so it's just worked out that we have that weird schedule of January to August, September, whenever we finish. And then we're able to kind of spend more time together as a family during the holidays, which is actually really great when you have a lot of kids in ballet, because Nutcracker is like the most intense time of the year for a ballerina. So it does work out. Will we homeschool forever? I don't know. We're going to take it a year at a time. Who knows? We could literally get to next year and be like tapped out, or maybe we move somewhere that is not as homeschool friendly or something, or we, yeah, that was adorable. Or maybe we move our kids to a private school that we fall in love with that's Christian or something. I don't know. But definitely I'm not of the mindset of you have to homeschool, and we will always homeschool and it will be that way forever, because life happens and I totally get that. So that is my stance on homeschooling. Those are my questions that I was asked. I so appreciate those of you that were able to tune in. I appreciate sweet Claire not crying. She's like, what are we doing? Thank you again for checking in here. I hope you enjoyed this topic on school choice. I, again, 100% agree with school choice. I think you should have the decision to where you send your kiddo, and I should have the decision where I send my kiddos. And that's what I love about it, school choice. So that is it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to end the video and save it. Bye, guys.